I guess we'd just like to barrel right into questions so we have some time for all of you. I know it's a blessed opportunity for all of us to come here today and ask a man who is a legend but has lived to see his own legend occur. I mean, that's a pretty privileged place to be in. Do you ever marvel, Ray, at yourself? I mean, you are a living legend. Do you ever look at your books and say, by God, I wrote that? How does it feel to be Ray Bradbury? You're a legend. Do you ever consider the fact that you're a legend?
It feels mighty damn good.
Now, let's barrel into some books here. In Fahrenheit 451, which is so often considered his magnum opus, published in October of 1953, he predicted things like earbuds from iPhones and iPods. You predicted flat-screen television. You predicted school violence. You predicted the demise of the American newspaper. You predicted the rise of graphic novels, something we're here to celebrate. How did you predict all of this stuff, Ray? How did you predict all of these technologies?
Yeah. The secret of life is being in love. And by being in love, you predict yourself. Whatever you want is whatever you get. You don't predict things, you make them. You've got to be a Zen Buddhist like me. Don't think about things, just do them. Don't predict them, just make them.
Now that's a question that people ask me often. Does Ray Bradbury have a faith? You just referred to yourself as a Zen Buddhist. Do you truly, is that your spiritual leaning, is Zen Buddhism, or what are your beliefs? What faith are you, Ray Bradbury? Are you truly a Zen Buddhist? Or what faith are you?
Yeah. I became a Zen Buddhist automatically because I remember being born. In the moment of birth, I remember every second and every hour and every day of my life. And when you have children a week off, you are pure Zen. You don't get to think about things. You live in the middle of existence. I live in the middle of my life. There are no perimeters. I expand to the universe. So I don't have to think about it. All I have to do is be. If I could, I mentioned all of these technologies that you predicted in Fahrenheit 451, and many of them you've warned us about. The rise of mass media and its implications on society. Are there any technologies that you would like to see happen in the coming years? Anything you'd like to see occur technologically in the future? I'd like to have certain technologies disappear, like the internet. The internet to me is a great big goddamn stupid bore. Several internet publishers have approached me during the last 2 years, and they want to publish my books on the internet. And I called to one of the internet people, and I said, prick up your ears and go to hell. I think if memory serves correct, that was the CEO of Yahoo, no less. Now, certainly, one of the technologies that you have been in favor of is space exploration. Why is space exploration so important to you? Because we are going to live forever. If we go out in space, if we go back to the moon, we should never have left the moon. We should go back and build spaces. We should go back and build a base on the moon and go on to Mars, and we should put a civilization on Mars. And then 500 years from now, move out into the universe. And when we do that, we have a chance of living forever. That's why I believe in space exploration.
Something that he made a point to me one day was that imagine if funding were cut for Christopher Columbus and the various explorers in over the last centuries. So many people wouldn't be sitting at ComicCon because of the discovery of North America by European settlers. So he equates that journey to space exploration very much. You actually went to NASA and met all of the Mercury astronauts and all of the Apollo astronauts in 1967. What are your memories of meeting all of these sort of young, courageous, bold young astronauts? Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah. My memories of them, they were great people. But when I met them, I discovered that all those astronauts had read the Martian Chronicles. And when they're all young men, they read my books and decided they wanted to become astronauts.
Let's talk about the Martian Chronicles for a minute, if we will. Let's talk about the Martian Chronicles. You just published a brand new collection through Subterranean of all your Mars stories. Tell me about that new book.
You can't afford it. That's $500 a copy. So get out of here and forget it.
The book contains many Mars stories that were not originally included in the Martian Chronicles that Ray had cut for various reasons, most notably because they didn't fit into the overall chronology of his chronicles. Your wife Maggie typed the manuscript to that book.
Back 60 years ago, my wife typed the manuscript for the Martian Chronicles. Yes.
Now, something that's a little controversial here is that the story, The Silent Town, you said that was very similar to the pilot in The Twilight Zone. Can you talk about that a little bit? The Mars story from the Martian Chronicles that you said was similar to the Twilight Zone episode. What are your thoughts on all of that?
No, Rod Serling came to my house many years ago. He didn't know anything about writing science fiction and fantasy. So I took him down my basement and I gave him copies of the books of Richard Matheson. I took him copies of the books by Henry Kuttner. I gave him copies of the books written by Roald Dahl and by John Collier, and a couple of my books by myself. And Rod Serling forgot that he'd read all these books, and when he wrote his program, he copied some of the ideas from me without telling me. So we got into a big argument and a lot of trouble together. And finally, I walked away from the Rod Serling show. I liked him very much. He had a great show. But unfortunately, he forgot the basis of the show was all the books that I gave him by all my friends.
Moving into a new subject, you have been coming to ComicCon since the very first ComicCon. You came the first year. Why do you
came 35 years ago to the El Cortez Hotel down here in San Diego. And I think there was only 300 people came to that meeting. So it was quite different from today.
Why have you been coming so often to this convention? Why is this such an important destination?
Because I've been collecting comic strips all my life. I have all the Prince values put away. I have 30 years of Prince values, Sunday illustrations put away. I have all of Buck Rogers put away too. I put away those starting when I was 19 years old. So my background in becoming a writer was falling in love with comic strips.
How did comic strips influence your prose writing? Did it affect it in any way, the narrative panels?
No, it was full of imagination. It was full of glorious adventures. So it taught me how to write. When I was only 9 years old, you see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I read the comic strips and I learned how to write.
Do you still read comic strips? Do you still read the funny pages or comic books?
Oh, yes.
Today? Which ones do you like?
My favorite is in the paper every day. It's called Mutts.
Now, of course, you have been really the patron saint of the American public library system. I don't know whether a lot of you have heard, but this man, as Arnold Kuhner so aptly said, at the young age of 90, has been very active in rescuing libraries that are under fire because of the budgetary crisis and the economic crisis in this country. You love public libraries. Tell us the story of your love affair with libraries.
When I left high school, I had all my friends in to go to college, but I had no money. And I decided then the best thing for me to do is not worry about getting money to go to college. I will educate myself. I will walk down the street, I will walk into a library, I will go to the library 3 days a week for 10 years, and I will educate myself. It's all free. That's the great thing about libraries. Most of you cannot afford to go to college. But if you want to educate yourself completely, go to the library and educate yourself. When I was 28 years old, I graduated from the library.
Now, as the man who predicted so many things that I rattled off at the very beginning, at the onset of this, I'd like you to take out your crystal ball that you've used for all these years. How do we get out of this recession we're in right now? What are your thoughts on the state of affairs in America?
The important thing is we learn our lessons from the past. President Reagan was our greatest president. He lowered the taxes and he gave the money back to the people. The next election, next November, and 2 years from now, we'll take the government back and give it to the people.
Yeah.
We've got to reduce big government and give it back to the people. Remember, Abraham Lincoln said, the history of America should be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. No more big government, more big people instead. That's you. So vote to get the government returned to you.
What should we be investing in for the future, to assure our future? What should we focus on for tomorrow?
We've got to reinvest in space travel. We should never have left the moon. We've got to go back to the moon and build a firm base there so that sometime in the next 40 years we can take off and go to the planet Mars. we've got to become the Martians. I am a Martian. I tell you to become Martians. And we've got to go to Mars and civilize Mars and build a whole civilization on Mars, and then move out 300 years from now into the universe. And when we do that, we have the chance of living forever. So our future is investing right now in space travel, and the money should be given to NASA sometime next year to build the rockets to go back to the moon.
You are turning 90 in a few weeks. You're turning 90 years old. What do you think when you reflect back on 90 years of living? How does it feel to be a 90-year-old young man?
It's been 90 goddamn incredible years.
Now, if you've written often about time travel, let's say in the wonderful story, A Sound of Thunder. You're all familiar, I'm sure, with that incredible story, where the hunters go back in time to hunt dinosaurs, and they're warned not to mess with anything, and of course, foreshadowing sets in and someone steps on a butterfly. What, if you could time travel back to a moment in your life, what moment would you go back to?
Every single moment. Every single moment of my life has been incredible. I've loved it. I've savored it. It's most beautiful. Because I've remained a boy. The man you see here tonight is not a man, it's a 12-year-old boy. And this boy is still having fun.
A lot of people, we hear this term, grow up. Do you feel like you've grown up? How have you been able to stay connected to your inner child over the years? Because a lot of people lose touch with that.
You remain invested in the inner child by exploding every day. You don't worry about the future. You don't worry about the past. You just explode. So, if you are dynamic, you don't have to worry about what age you are. So I remained a boy, because boys run everywhere. They never stop running. They never look back. They never look back. They just keep running, running, running. That's me, the running boy.
Of course, in so much of your writing, you have gone back to childhood. Something Wicked This Way Comes, Dandelion Wine, short stories like The Lake. So many stories that you have written over the years go back to childhood. Why is childhood so important to your canon? Why is it such a fertile territory for your imagination?
Because I grew up loving carnivals and circuses. So I went back to visit those carnivals and those circuses. That's why I wrote those stories.
So many people look at you as such a positive and inspiring person, which he absolutely is. I hope you all feel inspired by him today. I feel so fortunate to have spent so much time with you over these years, because you are so damned inspiring and incredible. Do you have any regrets in your life at all? Are there any regrets?
I regret that I didn't have more time with Bo Derek.
All right, now we've opened up a Pandora's box. This man once told me that in his 70s he was a sexual volcano, ladies and gentlemen. You have to tell the Bo Derek story now, Ray. How did you meet Bo Derek?
She came up to me in a train station in Paris 30 years ago and said, "Mr. Bradbury?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I love you." I said, "Who are you?" She said, "My name is Bo Derek." She said, "Mr. Bradbury, will you travel on the train with me?" I said, "Yep, I will."
The rest is censored. Even though we have Fahrenheit. Now, speaking of Bo Derek, let's talk about your greatest love. Do you have a greatest love in your life? What has been the greatest love?
I am the world's greatest lover. I love to write short stories. I write them. I love to write novels. I write them. I love to write poetry. I write them. I like to write essays. I write them. I love to paint pictures. I paint pictures. I love to direct film, so I directed one film at long last. I directed Something Wicked This Way Comes. I am the world's greatest lover. I've loved all these things I just told you about.
You just mentioned your 1983 film, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and you cited yourself as director. Of course, Jack Clayton is credited as the director. Why do you consider yourself, why are you the director of that film?
When he directed that film, it didn't work. And the studio called me in and said, "What do you think of the film?" I said, "It doesn't work. Let me take over and I will redirect the film." So I got a new musical score for the film, and I read the film, and I added music sequences, and the film that you've seen today is the film that I redirected when the original film didn't work.
You've often cited that film as the favorite cinematic adaptation of all your works. Do you have any updates on any new cinematic projects? Are there any new Bradbury films on the horizon? Any new movies?
Nothing's coming up right now. Nothing, you know.
We do have one that I will actually mention. Is Chrysalis, which won the Science Fiction International Film Award recently. And by coincidence, in the E1 Entertainment booth 16 today, they're selling copies of this a week before it comes out. And if you hurry down there today, Mr. Bradbury has been kind enough to sign a few of these posters. So that's in booth 216. Is there any news on the remake of Fahrenheit 451 or the Martian Chronicles or the Illustrated Man?
Mel Gibson owns the rights to Fahrenheit 451. Did you see him on TV during last week? Beating up on his girlfriend and swearing at her? So you saw Mel Gibson on TV during the last week. So right now, he's not doing a thing with Fahrenheit 451.